While John was tidying up his garage, he noticed a large, glowing eyes stared back at him. John's heart raced as he wondered what sort of animal could possibly be lurking in his garage. Hesitant to approach the mysterious creature, John decided to call for help. He phoned the town's veterinarian, Dr. Emily Turner, and within minutes, Dr. Turner arrived at John's garage. But once she saw the creature, she screamed, "This can't be true." John was waiting in front of the room he knew Dr. Emily was in, and he was not going to leave before he knew the truth about the animal. He had been left in the dark for long enough. He still did not know what he was dealing with and why the vet reacted so shocked to find the creature. He needed to know if he was in danger. Eventually, Dr. Emily decided to give in and invite John into the office. She knew that there was no way around it anymore. She explained to him what creature she had found in his garage and what was so special about it. John's jaw nearly dropped to the floor. He could not believe it. He could not be more happy about the fact that he had decided to call Dr. Emily instead of dealing with the animal on his own. That could have had potentially fatal consequences. But what animal did John find in his garage? Was what so special about it, and how could this find have had potentially fatal consequences? John was working in his garage almost every single day. He loved being out here working on one of his many projects in the peace and quiet of his suburban neighborhood. But that peace would be roughly disturbed today when John was suddenly spooked by a sound coming from the corner of his garage. John was immediately fearful. It would not have been the first time that an animal had made its way into his garage. Last time it was a raccoon, and a pretty aggressive one at that. It had almost bitten him a couple of times, and he needed help from his neighbors to eventually get it out. He wished that this would not be a repeat of that. He nervously approached the corner of his garage. To get to the source of the sound, he needed to get past a lot of clutter. John's garage was not exactly the most organized place. The sound appeared coming from behind one of his old surfing boards. He very carefully leaned over the board to have a look at what was behind it. He could not see much in the dark corner, but he did quickly spot two big bloodshot eyes opening up and looking intensely in his direction. This immediately made John take a step back and think about the previous animal encounters he had in the garage. He quickly realized that it was probably not a good idea to approach this creature alone. He considered asking his neighbor for help again, but did not want to keep bothering him with these kinds of things. Besides, they barely spoke anyway. It was probably better if he got some professional help out here. Seeing as there was no such thing as organized animal control in his town, he decided to call the next best person, the local veterinarian. John actually knew this woman decently well. He had a couple of cats in the house and had visited the vet often. She had even made a house call for him a couple of months ago. Seeing as it was Saturday today and the vet's office was closed, there was no way to call the office and get help right now. But luckily, John had Emily's personal number as well. Emily was surprised to hear from John on the weekend and was first afraid that something was wrong with his cats. But John quickly confirmed that they were all doing fine, but that he needed her help with something else. Emily informed John that she normally did not work on the weekend, but that she was intrigued by what he had to say. After explaining his situation, Emily had to think for a little bit, but eventually agreed to come anyway. It was not like she had many other things to do today. Plus, she only lived a 10-minute walk away from John, so she would be with him in 15 minutes. So now all John could do was wait in anticipation and hope the creature would not come out on its own. John stayed near the door of his garage the whole time, intensely listening to the sound the creature was making to confirm that it was still there. And the longer he listened to it, the more familiar it started to sound, but he could not put his finger on it. He was just hoping that the vet knew what they were dealing with it. Dr. Emily did not let John wait for her long. Her car pulled into the driveway, and she had even been smart enough to bring a small cage in case they needed to transport the animal. She was very relaxed as she walked up to John, as she just expected the animal to be maybe a large rat or at worst a small raccoon. But she was very wrong about that. After a short greeting and John explaining the situation, they went inside and Dr. Emily was immediately taken aback by the sound. John could read the confusion on her face, and Emily had to admit that she had never heard this sound before. It surely sounded like an animal, just not one that she was familiar with, which was a first for her. Inside the dimly lit garage, Emily focused intently, her ears straining to pinpoint the source of the enigmatic sounds. Every so often, a soft, guttural noise echoed off the cluttered walls, unlike anything she'd encountered in her veterinary practice. She moved cautiously, her eyes scanning the shadowed corners, trying to match the sound with any known animal. But each muffled growl only deepened the mystery, as no familiar pattern emerged from the darkness. Turning to John, Emily's expression was one of professional curiosity mixed with concern. "Have there been any unusual occurrences around here lately?" "Anything out of the ordinary?" she asked. John's brow furrowed in thought, his mind racing through recent neighborhood events. "Not that I can recall," he replied, uncertainty in his voice. Emily nodded slowly, her mind working overtime, trying to connect the dots to the strange visitor in the garage. The sounds persisted, an eerie backdrop to their conversation. Low and guttural, then a higher, almost whistling tone. Emily's concern escalated with each passing moment. She had heard the cries of countless animals in distress, the calls of wildlife in the night, but this was different. A chill ran down her spine as she realized that this sound, this peculiar symphony of noises, was entirely unfamiliar to her seasoned ears. Alone with her thoughts, Emily reflected on her years of experience. She had encountered a wide array of animal sounds, from the domestic to the wild, but this was a first. She replayed the sounds in her mind, cross-referencing them with every species she knew, but none fit. It was as if the creature making these noises didn't belong to any of the categories she was familiar with. It was a puzzle that both intrigued and unnerved her. Emily turned to John, her face etched with concentration. "Let's talk about the local wildlife. Have you seen or heard anything unusual in the area?" Any animals behaving oddly? John thought hard, his eyes scanning the garage as if it might hold answers. "There are the usual suspects: raccoons, foxes, the odd deer." "But nothing out of the ordinary," he replied. Emily nodded, her mind racing as she tried to match the mysterious sounds to any known creature. Emily's expression hardened with determination as she addressed John. "Stay back, John. We don't know what we're dealing with," she cautioned, her voice firm yet tinged with concern. John nodded, taking a cautious step backward. Emily's steady demeanor reassured him, but the gravity of her warning was not lost on him. In that moment, the unknown in the garage felt more real, more dangerous. Opening her emergency kit, Emily retrieved a pair of thick gloves and a protective mask. Her movements were methodical, each item selected with care. She slipped on the gloves, adjusting them for a secure fit, and then placed the mask over her face. Her eyes, now the most expressive part of her visage, conveyed a readiness to confront whatever lay ahead, armed with her years of veterinary experience and a dose of caution. The atmosphere in the garage had shifted palpably. Each shadow seemed to hold a potential threat, and the silence was punctuated only by their measured breathing. Emily's preparations lent a sense of urgency to the air, a silent acknowledgement of the possible danger that lurked within the cluttered space. John watched her, feeling a mix of apprehension and trust in her professional judgment. Emily turned to John, her voice muffled behind the mask. "If anything happens, I need you to be ready to move quickly," she instructed. "Stay alert and follow my lead." John nodded, his own nerves steeling as he prepared for the unexpected. Emily's instructions were clear, underscoring the unpredictable nature of their situation. Both were aware that in moments like these, caution was their best defense. Now fully equipped, Emily gave John a final nod, signaling they were ready. The protective gear she wore was a stark reminder of the potential risks they faced. John, though unarmed with any special equipment, stood resolutely by her side, a testament to his trust in her expertise. Together, they faced the dark corner of the garage, where the unknown awaited them, shrouded in mystery in the dim light of the setting sun. Carefully, Emily and John began shifting the clutter. Amidst a pile of old tools, they caught a fleeting glimpse of the creature. It was larger than any common garage intruder, its movements quick and fluid. The brief sighting left them startled. Emily's eyes widened in surprise, and John felt a shiver run down his spine. This was no ordinary animal. Its size and agility were unlike anything they'd expected. In the dim light, the creature's rapid movements cast eerie, darting shadows across the walls of the garage. Every rustle and shift seemed to amplify the tension in the air. John and Emily exchanged anxious glances as the shadows flickered like phantoms. The fleeting glimpses of the creature only deepened the mystery, the uncertainty of its nature fueling their growing apprehension. As they cautiously moved another box, Emily and John caught sight of the creature again. It moved with a startling swiftness, its form larger and more agile than any typical suburban wildlife. John's heart raced at the sight of it, his mind struggling to categorize this unknown entity. Emily, too, was visibly shaken, her wealth of experience offering no clues to the creature's identity. The creature remained just out of clear sight, its fleeting appearances only adding to the enigma. Each time they thought they had a chance to observe it, it vanished like a shadow, blending seamlessly into the cluttered background. The garage, once a familiar space, now felt like a labyrinth housing a mysterious, elusive inhabitant. John and Emily felt the weight of its unseen presence, a silent observer in the darkness. The glimpses they had of the creature revealed its surprising size and agility, challenging Emily's extensive knowledge of local fauna. The way it moved was fluid yet unnervingly swift, unlike any animal she had encountered in her career. Both Emily and John stood on edge, the realization dawning that they were dealing with something far from ordinary, something neither had been prepared to face. After another cautious attempt to approach the creature, Emily stopped, a look of resignation on her face. She turned to John, her voice steady but concerned. "This is beyond my expertise. We need someone trained for this kind of situation." Reaching for her phone with a decisive motion, she dialed the number for animal control, her expression revealing that the mystery of the garage had escalated into a serious concern. Emily's conversation with animal control was terse and urgent. "There's an unidentified animal in a garage. It's large, agile, and unlike anything I've seen before. We need assistance," she explained, her tone professional yet laced with urgency. John watched, feeling a mix of relief and heightened anxiety as Emily described their encounter. The gravity of the situation was clear in her concise report of the unusual and potentially dangerous encounter. The response from animal control was immediate and unequivocal. "Evacuate the garage and wait for our team," the voice on the other end instructed. Emily nodded, relaying the message to John. "We need to get out of here now," she said, her voice reflecting the seriousness of their directive. Together, they backed away from the dark interior, the weight of the unknown presence still lingering behind them. Without hesitation, Emily and John moved quickly towards the garage door, their steps hastened by the urgent need for safety. The once familiar space now felt like a danger zone, each shadow a potential hiding spot for the enigmatic creature. As they stepped into the daylight, the contrast between the calm outside world and the tense uncertainty of the garage was stark, a surreal juxtaposition of normalcy and unknown peril. Outside, under the open sky, John and Emily stood side by side, their breaths visible in the cool air. They exchanged glances, each lost in their own thoughts about the mysterious creature that had taken refuge in the garage. The wait for animal control was tense, filled with the unanswered questions and a growing unease about what was hidden in the shadows they had just left behind. John and Emily heard the rumble of the animal control vehicle before they saw it. It pulled up with a sense of urgency, equipped with specialized capture tools. The team, clad in protective gear, stepped out confidently, carrying equipment designed for a wide range of scenarios. Their professionalism was evident, their preparation thorough, signaling they were ready for whatever challenge awaited them inside the garage. With a nod from their leader, the animal control team approached the garage. Each move was deliberate, their training evident in their cautious but purposeful steps. Emily watched with a mix of relief and apprehension as the team prepared to enter the unknown. The garage door, once a mundane part of John's home, now felt like a barrier to a hidden, potentially dangerous world that these professionals were about to confront. The animal control team communicated in hushed, efficient tones as they surveyed the garage. They moved slowly, methodically, their eyes scanning every inch of the space. One of them gestured to John and Emily, signaling them to keep their distance. The seriousness of their approach underlined the potential danger of the situation, and both John and Emily stepped back, respecting the professionals' need for space to work. After what seemed like an eternity, the animal control team emerged. In their midst was a cage, covered with a heavy cloth, obscuring the view of whatever they had captured. The team's strict adherence to protocol only served to deepen the mystery surrounding the creature. John and Emily exchanged glances, both recognizing that this level of confidentiality was unusual. The silence of the animal control team felt like a barrier, impenetrable and frustrating, leaving them with more questions than answers. As the vehicle prepared to leave, the covered cage in the back became a symbol of the unresolved enigma. The cloth hiding the creature obscured not only its identity but also the answers to their many questions. John and Emily could only speculate, their imaginations running wild with possibilities. The secrecy enveloping the creature's capture added an air of intrigue and mystery to the already baffling situation.